Do something else! Holy stop sending me this bull and then get mad when I don't like it.
That energy, okay, that T-Pain energy is how I feel seeing some of these dance class videos. That's how I be feeling. And so let's talk about it. What is up, artists and movers? Welcome back to another podcast style episode where we have a little discussion, a little conversation, a little tete-a-tete about some things that are on my mind. And this topic for today is inspired by a comment that I saw on last week's video. So last week I did a video on essentially why I stopped pursuing a professional dance career in terms of performance, and what went into that decision. And I talk about how a part of that decision was because I really feel that performance, class taking, and rehearsal are three very different experiences. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I will have it linked up top and down below for you guys. But it definitely influenced where I'm going to be coming from today, because in the comments someone shared that they don't like class because of the filming aspect. And so I wanted to kind of share some thoughts that I have on filming dance classes. This is purely an opinion piece. There's not going to be a single tip in here. So this is strictly for conversation purposes. So go ahead and listen to this when you are making your breakfast. Maybe you're folding your laundry, driving in your car. Go ahead and let it play, because we're gonna dive in. So, filming dance classes. It's something that I've never talked about on this channel, and that's because I feel like there are a lot of layers to this whole concept of filming class, and all of those layers contribute to my thoughts on it. I think the first thing anyone who, takes dance classes should realize, especially dance classes where there is filming involved, the thing they should realize is that class video is a marketing tool. And I talk about that a little bit in one of my videos that I did on, I believe it was my Marketing 101 video for dancers. Just kind of explaining like different examples of marketing that you may see in the dance world, and class footage is definitely one of those. So I will have that linked up top for you guys if you haven't checked that out, as well as just the rest of the Business Basics for Dancers series. Because maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I do think it's a good little series and I've been enjoying making it. Anywho. So yeah, class footage is a marketing tool. And I believe it was popularized around the time that we saw a lot of Trisha Miranda videos, and I don't even have a year for you on that. I want to say maybe that was 2016. Hey, so this is editing Gaylyn from the future popping in real quick. But so I looked it up and, just found Trisha Miranda's YouTube channel and looked all the way back to how far her videos go. They go back to 13 years ago, which is pretty cool because that was way before YouTube had its skyrocket. And so I just think it was really cool that her videos go back so far. So I thought I would insert some clips from some of her old videos that I thought were pretty cool to look at. Sorry I can't have the music, copyright and YouTube and such, but I just thought that was cool. She was one of the first choreographers to really have her classes filmed, and her already being, a choreographer in her own right, having this footage made her accessible to people who before were not. even if it was simply just watching the video. You know, if you were an everyday person who was not a dancer, you may not have heard of a Trisha Miranda. And so having this footage of her classes when she would teach master classes was a way to make her more accessible. It was a marketing tool. It was a way to broaden her audience. And it was very intelligent. And since then, it's been it's been customary for people to use class footage as a marketing tool. And so that's where we saw really that spike and that rise in class videos, especially on the YouTube platform. And then eventually, you know, that slipped its way also into Instagram. So when you understand that class footage is a marketing tool, it changes how you perceive your interaction with that whole experience. So, teachers are filming the class to promote their classes, okay? Most teachers, and I'm going to try my best to not, you know, generalize and paint in broad strokes in here, because I don't know, you know, the intentions of every single dance teacher out there. But in general, teachers are using class footage to promote their classes. And when you understand that as a student, that should affect how you choose to take class. And so it's very easy to be like, classes are, you know, not fun anymore because of the filming aspect. Classes was supposed to be for where you learn. It's supposed to be where you work on, you know, technique, or it's where you work on like fundamentals. That's not what a class video is supposed to be capturing. Class video is for choreography. It is for the choreographer, the dance teacher. It is for them to show their style. It is not at all a representation of if that teacher is a good teacher or not, meaning if they are a good educator, meaning if they work well with students. It is a tool to show off their choreography. And so as people who take dance classes, we have to acknowledge that that is a fact. And so, you know, one thing I learned when I got here to LA, because I had never been in a class before that was filmed like that. One, it taught me how to turn the performance on when I needed to, which is something that I'm very grateful for, because as I talked about in a previous video, performance isn't something that comes naturally to me. And so having that aspect of, oh, we're going to be filmed at the end of this, adds a level of pressure that is, I think, healthy, because you need to be able to perform for this camera. Now, I will say, I don't necessarily think that people who have their classes filmed are doing so to teach you how to dance for a camera, meaning for commercials, for music videos, etc. Because some of the stuff that people do in a class video would never fly in a music video. And that's fine. I just think that, you know, it's important that dancers who are training don't get confused. Oh, because I'm taking this class and it's being filmed all the time, that means I'm going to be good at performing for camera in a music video. Not always the case. I do also think that the cool thing about classes being filmed is that it prepares you for auditions. Again, that healthy level of pressure, but also when you go to an audition, if they're not making a decision that day, they're recording you. They're filming you. And then later, they're going to go back, you know, into whatever room they're with the choreographer, the director, maybe the artists themselves, the rest of their team, and pick who stands out to them in the way that they want that person to through the video footage. And so it takes having an understanding of how to make the experience of you dancing in person translate on camera. So it's important. It's an important thing to know how to do if you want to be a working dancer. But again, that's if you want to be a working dancer. It's funny because if you understand, again, that class footage is a marketing tool, it makes you not take a lot of crap from these teachers. And that sounds really negative, I guess, but it's really weird. And if you've taken class in LA, then you probably know this well, but some teachers who have their classes filmed will pretend like part of the reason that those students are there isn't because it's being filmed. It's very common for a teacher to advertise their class saying class will be filmed, knowing that that will bring students to their class. Okay, those students didn't just show up because they like your choreography or because they like your class. They also were showing up because the class is going to be filmed. And so, I don't know. It's just weird when some of these teachers want to act funny with the footage afterward. Why so stingy when you know that some of the people who came here came because the class was being filmed? And so I think it's a common thing for some teachers to pretend like filming isn't part of the class experience. It's 2021 now. If you're using that to bring in students, that's a part of the experience, and they have a right to that footage because that was a part of their decision making in paying you for that class. And if you don't want that to be a part of their decision making, then don't advertise that the class is going to be filmed. It's really weird. You can't go both ways on it. And so I think, again, in remembering that class footage is a marketing tool, I think it will give you a level of discernment in terms of what teachers have your growth as a dancer as a priority versus what teachers have the footage as a priority based off of who they're allowing to be filmed. I think absolutely it's important to get footage as a choreographer, as a teacher, to show, how good you are, what your stuff looks like. And when you have that footage, you want it to be on people who are great dancers. And so I don't think it's weird, that teachers will pick, the same couple of dancers if they take their class to be in the video. That's fine. But I just think that also everyone else should also get filmed, even if it doesn't make it into the video, the actual video that gets posted, but so that they can see what they look like and improve. Use that tool that's being used as a marketing tool for you and make sure that it's mutually beneficial. And I know the first thing that some of those teachers are going to say is, well, class isn't long enough to film everybody. Then stop making the daggone choreography 2 and 3 minutes long for a class. You trying to do a whole concept video in class. That's not what class is for. Make sure that the choreography is short enough so that you have time to film everyone. It's about intention at that point. It's like, do you want to also take into account your students' experience, or are you just trying to get footage for yourself? And if you have a teacher who's not doing that, if you have a teacher who's constantly, only selecting a couple of people, or if you've been taking their class for a long time and they're not giving you an opportunity to dance for a camera, they're not giving you the opportunity to see your growth, because filming yourself is a huge part of just growing as a dancer and making sure that, how you feel it looks is actually how it looks and making sure that the movement translates. And so video is a huge tool to help you improve as a dancer. And so if you're having someone film the class, then sure, have them come in, film everybody, and then use the select few for the actual video that gets posted. But why keep the video footage from certain people? Now, on the flip side, that don't mean just because you have a video of you doing it that it needs to go up on Instagram all the time. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But yeah, class footage is a marketing tool. That's the first thing that I wanted to point out, because that's where a lot of my perspective comes from. And just understand that as a choreographer or a teacher, understand that you can use that to help you, to benefit you, and to think about how you can make that experience mutually beneficial for the people who are investing in you as your students. And for students, make sure that you are really taking into account how footage is being used in the classes that you take, because also, just because someone has a lot of class footage, that is not evidence of them being a good teacher. And that's the second thing that I think people who are taking classes that are being filmed need to realize, is that it's your responsibility to, sure, take the classes where you can get some footage, see how you perform the choreography, but footage is for choreography. Footage is not for fundamentals. And so if you are taking a class where you're doing choreography, but you've never taken the classes to get the fundamentals that go into that choreography, to get the technique that goes into that choreography, whether if it is traditional European technique or if it's popping or locking or whatever it is, if you don't have those fundamentals, the choreography is going to be missing something. And it's not on that teacher to also provide you the fundamentals if they have proven in the past that they're just strictly a choreography teacher. They're doing the choreography game. It's your job as a student who is training to also seek out classes that are teaching fundamentals. And that means taking classes that aren't filmed. Often in LA, you'll hear them called foundations classes. But as a training dancer, as a dancer who's wanting to improve at your craft, class footage classes, quote unquote, are not always going to be the place where you're going to see the most growth. You got to take the fundamentals first. Otherwise, you're doing the step, something's missing from that sauce in the step. And then you wonder why, when you get the class footage, it doesn't look right. You're missing the fundamentals because you're sitting here taking classes that, that are only filmed. You're not going to the classes where the fundamentals are. And so again, that's on the student. That's not on the teacher. They've shown you what to expect from them, even if they are letting everyone get filmed and trying to make it mutually beneficial. If they're not a foundations teacher, they're not a foundations teacher. And it's very clear what teachers are and aren't. And, it's your responsibility to seek out a good balance of both if you're trying to be a working dancer. So I want to connect this to the last thing that really is why I'm here. Is really why I'm even talking about this. And I'm going to share a clip with you from T-Pain real quick because it mirrors how I feel, okay? It mirrors how I feel. Ebony Williams shared it this week on her Instagram, and I remember seeing that, this clip existed, but I never watched it. But here, just take a little listen.
Do something else! Holy We have it! We have it already! You don't have to do that music anymore! We have the music already! Stop sending me this bull and then get mad when I don't like it! Jesus! Goddamn tap dancing Christ!
That energy, okay, that T-Pain energy is how I feel seeing some of these dance class videos. That's how I be feeling. And so let's talk about it. So back to square one, right? Class footage is a marketing tool. And so it's used where predominantly? Social media, because social media is how you can bring in more of an audience. That's where you find an audience. And a lot of marketing is done on social media platforms. The issue is that social media platforms and their algorithms do not reward creativity or creative exploration. And I talk about that a lot in my podcast episode called Chasing Algorithms Won't Make You a Great Artist. So definitely take a listen to that one if you haven't already. I'll have it linked up top. But these algorithms don't reward creative exploration, meaning you trying new things and doing things that you haven't done before. No. These algorithms reward consistent sameness. Because when something does well on a social media platform, it keeps people on it longer and helps that platform, Instagram, YouTube, etc., make more money because they can show more ads in that time frame. And so rewarding sameness helps those platforms make more money. And so the problem is that when an algorithm rewards sameness, you get a lot of the same thing. Now, these pieces of class footage are often used also by people who want to teach at dance studios. I went through a very tiny phase in my life where I was like, oh, maybe I want to be a teacher at a dance studio. And this often applies in the competition and convention circuit as well. And so a part of that process is that you have to prove, and this is me letting y'all in on some tea here. Not super hidden tea, but this isn't something everyone knows. So these studios require you to prove that you're going to be able to bring in a certain number of students to your class. Why is that? Well, dance classes are relatively inexpensive. And I know the cost of dance classes has gone up in the past 2 or 3 years, but go ahead and search for how much a painting class is, how much an acting class is, and then search for how much a dance class is. Dance classes are inexpensive, okay? And because they are so inexpensive, and because studios have a building with a lease that they have to maintain, it requires that there be a high level of volume to make those numbers, meaning that a lot of people got to come into that studio in order to be able to keep the lights on. So the studio requires that any dance teacher who wants to be consistent with them be able to prove that they can bring in a certain number of dance students when they teach every time. And so getting that number requires A, that you use filming class as a marketing tool, okay, because that's how you can bring in more people. And B, that you be able to do that on a regular basis. And so now you may be able to see how filming classes, these class footage videos, really ties into why we're getting a lot of sameness, not only in the class videos, but in the classes that are offered. You feel me? You follow me? So when these algorithms reward sameness, it changes the landscape of the dance teaching industry. Because these algorithms are now deciding what is profitable dance and what isn't. And in a structure where dance studios, again, prices are low, and they require that high volume consistently, you can see how class footage is a huge part or a huge decider in what kind of classes are offered. So that's why we get in a lot of the same stuff. And I haven't taken class very much recently. I'm open to it. There are times where I'm like, I'm taking a break. I'm not dancing. I would be open to it now, but I'm not I don't want to, because this sounds so condescending. I don't want to say I'm not impressed, but maybe that's how I feel. There's not a lot of things out here that I want to take. And a lot of the things that are offered are just like a slightly different version of something else that's already been offered. And so it goes back to how if you're really trying to be a creative, and if you want to experiment and try new things, that means that you're going to have to be okay with not hitting these algorithms. And all of this, ends up affecting people's income. Like, this isn't just in a vacuum on, in the social media world. Like, this affects real people's lives. And so I understand why people can start putting out the same stuff, because they're trying to pay rent. It's still a pandemic, but then we get a lot of the same stuff, and I'm bored. I'm bored at the stuff that I'm seeing. And I think that's probably why dance class videos aren't as popular as they used to be, because it's a lot of the same thing. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Class footage is a marketing tool, first and foremost. Second, if you're a training dancer, you got to understand how this affects your experience as a student in a class and how it affects your responsibilities. And, out of all of that, the third being that's why we got a lot of the same ish out here. So yeah, I know that went all over the world, but let me know if you followed it. Let me know if you were tracking with me. Because these are the kind of conversations that I do want to have here on my channel. I'm excited that now I'm in a place where I can talk about these things more. And, a lot of these are opinion based. Like, this is my opinion on class footage, based on what I've seen, based on what I know. So it's not gospel, but I would like to say that it's a very informed opinion. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you like taking a class that's being filmed? Do you feel like you take a good mix of classes that are and aren't filmed? Do you feel like you take a good mix of classes that are choreo versus foundations? What kind of classes would you like to see more of? Let me know in the comments down below. And I will see you guys in my next video next weekend. Later.